Welcome back.
Welcome back. Where'd you get these fine little sausages here?
These are Eggers, and they're my bear.
You can eat bear?
Oh, yes, you can eat bear. It's very good.
Actually, no, it's not. If you get a bear, just call me up. I'll come help you take care of it.
Yeah, you can pawn it off on Tim. He's happy to take it. Yo. Ooh. I like my drinks cold, so I got a little ice in here.
You won't believe what I caught.
How's that sound?
Who I caught in the act the other day.
Really?
One of our favorite virtual guests of the podcast, Jocko Willink.
Oh yeah, virtual guest.
One of our favorite virtual guests that we've talked to, but never really talked back to us.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
I clicked on my YouTube video the other day, and the very first advertisement was a Jocko advertisement.
Yep.
It's like, Jocko, you don't have to go through YouTube. Just call.
Right.
What? You're using a middleman.
Yeah.
You're using a middleman.
That seems foolish.
It seems foolish to me.
Yeah,
But
they're all over the place right now. Mm-hmm. Like, they're advertising hard, which could mean lots of things, but...
Yeah, I like his advertisement when he says, have you seen the protein cookie one? Well, he's like, I guess I could have made a cookie that tastes like sawdust, but I made a cookie that tastes good. If that makes me soft, so... Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
The unapologetic Jocko Willink.
He's got an iconic voice, man.
He does. He's definitely got one of those. You hear it, you know who it is. Instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right now we're drinking Jocko Go, because not everyone gets to see this on YouTube. And we got a fat bear sausage. Is this a Washington bear?
Yeah.
To get our fuel up so we can have a great podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because Josh freaking works hard. I showed up today and he was hoeing.
I was whatting? Say that again.
Hoeing.
Hoeing? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Was that what you're doing?
Trenching with an excavator?
Using a backhoe?
No, that's an excavator, not a backhoe.
Okay.
There's a bit of a difference.
Okay.
But no, I gotta run a water line from Mom's new house to the pump house where all the water comes from. And I could have paid somebody to do it, but I have a little mini excavator, and it saves me a decent amount of money to dig it myself. Not calculating effectively how long it was going to take. I'm about not quite halfway, and I think I'm about 5 hours in.
How long did you estimate it was going to take?
Oh, I figured I'd have it done a day, no problem. And like the pipe put back in the ground and, buried it. So way off.
Isn't that how every project goes?
Yeah, I've never used, so my cousin loaned me his 1 foot bucket, so we're not making nearly the mess. You're not digging as much dirt out of the ground.
A little more precise.
But it takes a lot longer because you're not taking nearly as much dirt out of the ground every time, right? So you're not getting as deep. My other bucket would probably take half the time, quarter of the time. Like, I'd probably be connected to the pump house by now, but I'd have like 3-4 times the amount of dirt out of the ground. So, yeah, there's a give and take, I guess. So I'm happy, I'm appreciative that he let me borrow it. And my other cousin who runs his equipment already messaged me and said, "Are you done with it yet?" So I was like, I really better get on that because he needs it back.
What was the size of that crescent wrench that you were wielding the other day?
Way too big. I couldn't remember how big the bolt was in the bucket, in the brake that holds the bucket.
Yeah.
It's just a 1 inch or 7/8 or something like that. But I just grabbed my largest random crescent wrench, and it was a 24-inch crescent wrench. Highly unnecessary. To put it back in, I drove it back up here with the bucket sitting on it and grabbed a regular wrench. That's how often I change my bucket. I never do it.
So how's your wild game stock doing?
Surprisingly really good, actually, but I guess I shouldn't say surprisingly. I still haven't turned my deer into something yet. It's still sitting there in the freezer.
Well, having a full-size elk helps. Did you split
Yeah.
that with your cousin?
No, so my cousin and I hunt in Idaho. My buddy Nick and I hunt in
Nick,
Washington.
yeah. I thought Nick was a cousin.
And so any animal we harvest off the property, we split.
Yeah,
So he's got half of my elk.
yeah.
So, and I still have a ton of it. And I still have cow from the neighbor's cow that got shot. Let's see. I still have a little bit of buffalo. I've been like just coming out a little bit. I had some last night, but in general, I've been leaving it.
How are the buffalo steaks?
They're good. Yeah. It's leaner, so
Similar to elk, or
yeah, I would say it's similar to elk for sure, but it's still really good. But yeah, I've still got at least one freezer full of meat, but I eat meat constantly, like nonstop.
Yeah, I gotta actually do a little bit of dwindling on my supply because I want to make room for a spring bear.
Yeah, it is April.
Yeah, are you gonna be able
That's
to?
coming.
Are you gonna be able to get your Idaho spring bear?
I would have to buy a non-resident hunting license because I haven't gotten through my 6 months yet. But I'm trying to remember. It's December 15th, so like I might be able to hunt in the later portion.
Yeah, and the later portion can be good too.
So I'm not sure how long it takes to actually get your hunting license once you've established your 6 months of residency. If there's like a delay there or something, but yeah, it's hopeful. I'm really hopeful because I need to apply for antelope by the end of May. And if they don't issue it to me before then, I'll pay for a non-resident hunting license to be able to still go hunt antelope
Yeah, for sure.
and apply for a non-resident antelope tag, even though I'm currently a resident at the time. So it's all a timing issue, Hopefully it's not something that there's a big delay on. That's part of the reason why I moved when I did it. I wanted to make sure I'd be able to be a resident before the deadline for that draw.
Is this weekend the weekend you guys are coming up to shoot?
Yeah, they're supposed to be here tomorrow. Bobby's flying in tomorrow, and Pappy's driving up tomorrow.
You guys got like a group text, everybody talking crap kind of thing?
Oh, we have a year-round group text. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Bobby's got a new bow. I retuned Pappy's bow. Justice has a new bow. I haven't sighted in or even frickin' tuned one of my bows yet. So we're going to have probably a shit show of a Friday afternoon. Trying to get that all straightened out and sighted in because we're going to the Coeur d'Alene Bowman shoot in Farragut on Saturday morning.
Just a little local shoot, yeah.
Just a little local shoot.
That'd be cool.
I don't think the weather's supposed to be great, but it is what it is. We'll go have a good time and then go get some lunch and then do some axe throwing or something, I think was what was originally the plan.
Are you like the runaway favorite in that group, or can anyone give you a run for your money?
I would assume I'd probably be fine. But my cousin's a really good shot. It pissed me off,
Which
too.
one?
Justice.
Yeah.
It pissed me off because within like 5 shooting sessions, he was better than anybody I'd seen who had just picked it up. And it's like, but he's naturally good at almost everything he does. He's one of those people. But he doesn't practice, and I don't know if we've never kept score. Like, we've never shot for a score. It's always, when we're shooting, it's always, we're really tweaking our stuff for long distance, and then we go hunting. We don't go to tournaments. I don't go to tournaments in general. So this is something that Brandon annually does every year, and Bobby decided he was going to fly up from California to go to hang out and go do that shoot and pick up his bow that I built for him. He bought himself a Lift 33. And get all that stuff knocked out and go have some fun. So that should be a good time. I haven't decided if I don't know if I want to take the camera or not. The point and shoot. I did get 2 more batteries for it, and I got another shotgun mic, and I bought 3 or 4 more memory cards of the ones that I know work for it. So since those super fancy ones that we use don't work in it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't decided. I haven't asked the guys on if they care if they get recorded or not or whatnot, because I'm gonna need some of the time, realistically, to actually like sight my stuff. And I still haven't built any arrows. I got to see if I can get Daniel to build me some arrows tomorrow.
What's your? Do you know what kind of arrow you're going with? You probably already decided, right?
I'll probably use an RIPXV. I'll shoot a 35 grain insert. I'll probably use a collar because that when we started dabbling with that slow-mo stuff, I shot a cinder block from 10 feet or whatever with an arrow without a collar and an arrow with a collar, and both of them broke. But there was a distinct difference when you watch the arrow go forward and then it hits, and the one without the collar, everything explodes, right? But that arrow does this.
Oh, like it
Right.
Josh is saying it's kind of endoed, basically.
Yeah, it kind of endoed, and then the one with the collar hits, the arrow breaks, but the arrow didn't move. It just sat there and then kind of fell.
Like it kind of continued its forward momentum.
Yes, the energy went forward as far as it could and then broke off. So in the instance of, hitting something hard, it's clearly going to allow you to penetrate at a greater rate. So I think that's something that I definitely need to keep in my arsenal for sure. It may encourage me to shoot different systems altogether. I don't know, but it was noticeable, and I'll put that video up on YouTube. I got to figure out how to line the two up next to each other and have them record at the same time because I'm a decent editor. I'm not a great editor, and I couldn't figure out. I figured out how to put one over the top of the existing that was behind it, but I couldn't figure out how to move them around to where they're right next to each other so you can watch both of them happen at the same time.
Yeah,
Which
simultaneous
is cool.
or whatever.
Simultaneous, and you can see the difference. And I need to do that because we're going to be doing all kinds of testing on broadheads and stuff where you can watch it in super duper slow motion, which is pretty cool.
It is. I'm really excited to see more of the footage and also see the internet's reaction to it because, we don't have a ton of that high quality slow-mo available to us.
Right.
We get little spurts of it here and there, and the reason is it's really difficult. It's expensive. It's light is difficult. There's a lot of challenges to bring it to life. So, yeah, it's got a lot of potential.
The size of storage
Yeah.
for the freaking brief little time that it is insane. What was one of them was a 5 gig file for a minute and a half, and it was a 4-second video.
Yeah.
It took a minute and a half to film.
To play or whatever, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a bigger hard drive. Way bigger hard drive.
The best way I can describe it is it's just like when you put a big lift kit on a truck. Everything else has to be juiced up to support it.
Correct.
Otherwise, something breaks. Our friend Drew's son just texted me the other day. He's like, hey, what SD card do I need to shoot this fancy 4K 120? And I'm like, oh, you need this fancy SD card because it's writing all that data on there. And, you can buy an SD card for typically $30-$40, but when you want to write the fancy files onto it, you got to go more into in your example, it's not even writing to an SD card because an SD card is not capable of accepting that much data. It writes to an actual SSD hard drive.
Yeah, it's a 1 terabyte hard drive in the camera.
Yeah, it's in the camera.
Yeah, the size of the file is just bonkers.
It's crazy.
It comes off pretty easily, though, surprisingly. It actually isn't.
It's pretty workable, yeah.
It is really workable. I will say that.
Yeah.
I need to get a bigger monitor or something so you can see it a little better. Because trying to look at this tiny little thing until it's in focus, until it's good when you're dealing with lighting issues and whatnot is always a challenge. But I'll get the hang of it. Won't be too terribly hard. And honestly, I don't know. You can do up to 10,000 frames. I don't know if I even want to do 5. Going back and looking at it, it moves so slow. Justin hadn't seen it at all, and he came over and had dinner last night, and I showed him some of the footage before he left after work.
He probably loved that, hey?
Oh, dude. Yeah, he actually asked. I forgot that he hadn't seen it yet. He's like, hey, can I see some of that footage? Oh, yeah, sure. John ran here and showed him. And there's one of them where we shot a shaken up pop can with a broadhead, and it, explodes the can. And fluid goes everywhere. And it took 2.5 minutes for fluid to leave the frame.
Yeah.
And this is an elevated thing. So it's not like it's splashing off the ground. It's just hit it, it explodes, and falls to the ground. And that was 2.5 minutes of runtime. It's it's cool, but it's almost too slow.
Yeah.
For some of the things, which you can always manipulate that.
Yeah. You can always manipulate the speed. I can show you some stuff on that, too.
Well, and I'm curious, I think what we're going to find, honestly, is somewhere between what am I shooting at? How many frames was I shooting at?
The last one I think was 5,700.
Yeah, so I'm thinking somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 is probably going to be the sweet spot of where it shows you everything you want to see. It looks really slow, but it's not so slow. Like, I mean, the one where I recorded myself just firing, it's like this fast.
Yeah. To give example, like
It's wild.
what a lot of people are seeing me shoot slow-mo arrows, it's usually in 120 frames. Sometimes it's 240, which is rare, but the slowest slow-mo I'll shoot is 240. So multiply that by 10. It's 10 times slower.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's pretty neat. It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I gotta see if I need a different lens or if the lens I have is adequate, or who knows. We'll be playing with a bunch of stuff with it. But now that I know how it works, I'm not afraid to go buy a couple of lenses if I need to. I just wanted to make sure we could record something with it, and it would look the way we hoped it would. Because you can,
And to even be able to work with the files, because that's
Right.
another unknown, is when you work with this kind of stuff, is like, is your computer even capable of processing the files?
yeah.
And not to get into the weeds on that too much, but are you making any like non-conventional equipment choices, you think, going into TAC? Anything new or different, or
Non-conventional?
yeah, I mean, anything new or different? People ask me all the time, like, what do I got to do to get ready for TAC, or what's a TAC experience like? And I guess I take for granted, because I've been to a few of them. You know, it's become more normal to me to go and be ready. So if a person's getting ready for a total archery challenge or a 3D shoot, what are some considerations?
Well, practice,
Yeah.
which I have not done.
Yeah.
I am using my lift's got a different arrow rest on it just because I want to play with one. It's one of those ratchets. But I have an RX-8 Ultra that I haven't published my video on yet that I built. I haven't built my Elite yet. I'm going to build an Elite. I'm going to build a PSC. And what I was going to do was a Evolve 33, right? Because that's probably the closest dimension that's a new bow. But Outdoor Life gave the Mach 30 bow of the year. So I think I'll do that one, even though everything else is going to be longer. I'm going to say, well, if they really think this is the best bow built, then fine. I'll throw that in there as my comparable PSE bow. So I got to grab one of those and build one of those up. So I don't, and we're leaving in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. It won't be too far from when this pod comes out.
It's
coming around the corner, yeah.
I got to finish this ditch here and get that water in the ground. But no, I would definitely do practicing a lot farther away, especially if you're going to like attack. Like you need to be shooting like 100, 110, 120 on the reg if you're going to shoot any of the harder courses.
And your sight tape's got to be dialed.
And your sight tape's got to be dialed. Yeah. And there's a couple different ways to do that effectively. The precision cut works really good when you actually give it velocities that are accurate. You can use a Doppler for that, or you can use a Garmin and set it downrange and set it up close to you. But that's a really, really, really accurate way to do it. Plus, if you use their program, you can put in an elevation change and have a predetermined sight tape for a different elevation, which would be good. But more than anything, just practicing at the distance so you get comfortable with it. The practicing farther away makes you so much more accurate up close. Like it's a massive benefit to you. So I definitely would do that. Your peep's probably going to be a little lower than it is now to be the most comfortable, but you got to try it. You're going to have to move it down to that distance and see if you can still get your nose on the string. Some people where they base their peep position, when they get it out that far and drop their sight down that far, they're lifting their head off their string. And that's tough. Like if your nose isn't touching your string at 120, it's hard to be consistent because you can't feel the difference, and that matters. So, pay attention to those things would probably be valuable. If you're going for a fun and not like just practicing your hunting, shoot a lighter arrow with a small fletch.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's so much easier. Like,
and it extends your sight tape.
Oh yeah, you can shoot 140, 150, depending on how light an arrow you're shooting. Whether it's a Rip XV because they're super light, or X Impact from Black Eagle, they're super light. I want to say the lightest gold tip is a Velocity. They're super duper light, although the Air Strikes and the Black Label Quantums are decently light. They're not super light. Easton's, even the Sonics are the lightest one I think they make. But if you switch to a lighter arrow, and Sonics are real reasonable in price too. Like that's an arrow that's not super expensive. You can buy a dozen Sonics for $120. And if you're going to go to a total archery challenge where you intend to kind of destroy your equipment because you tend to break arrows and take risky shots and things like that, man, out of all those arrows I just mentioned, the Sonic's the cheapest. Like it really is. It's almost like they made that arrow for total archery challenge because it's more affordable and it's still pretty light. It's not the lightest by any means. I want to say I think the XV is the lightest in all of them, but it's a good option. So something to consider. But yeah, throw together some arrows that are lighter and recite your bow with the lighter arrows. It's just so much easier. It really is, guys. You get your flatter trajectory, your ability to shoot distance becomes really easy, and your arrow gets to the target a lot quicker, and it has less of an opportunity to move around in the wind in those scenarios as well. So there's a lot of positives to shooting a light arrow. And you're not trying to penetrate foam, so you don't have to worry about your penetration, even though that's an argument for another day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all good stuff. Light arrows. Then you end up building a second sight tape, retuning to that arrow. But if it's June, I mean, you might shoot that as a 3D arrow for a couple months.
Yeah, if you're going to local tournaments, just set it up for that.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with using a light arrow in your local 3Ds just because it's not as far of a distance to shoot.
Because most people reasonably don't start hunting till September, so it's a couple month window. You could flip flop it. It's getting easier to flip flop tapes back and forth now with different sight options. Having a little smaller peep, little smaller housing does help.
Yeah, if you're going to do a sight specifically for it, which I personally prefer to hunt with a smaller housing and a smaller peep anyway. It's just easier to center, and you can still get good light transmission through that. I mean, I think I'm using a 732 or something. Typically, want a small housing, so I still have a big peep, so I still get good light through it. So I don't have to change it out for hunting, but. Yeah, there's definitely some massive pluses there.
I really do like having like a Kafaro hip quiver for having a little stash of goods with you along with your arrows on your side. Another way to do it, some guys like, is a small backpack and then throw in a couple waters or, a couple rubbers or whatever in the back.
Yeah, backpack can be nice. It's just your preference, you know. I try to not carry hardly anything if I can.
Yeah, I like to carry less is more.
I've got a freaking pocket quiver on my hip and Allen wrenches in my bino harness, and it usually covers me pretty much anything I need, other than water, which there's a couple of check stations.
Couple waters on the course,
a couple waters on the course, so it usually helps. But it's just something that you're going to get at attack, but probably not going to get it at another tournament.
Big Sky is going to be a wild card being in the middle of June. I mean, 10,000 feet, middle of June.
Yeah, could be nasty. Could be hot as hell. Let's see. Was that? It was.
I think they moved it up
Big
even
Sky
more
last year, and the weather was terrible.
Yeah,
like it rained like the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like there was very rarely. I mean, it would rain half the day and then not, and start and stop, and got drenched. And
it's legit mountain weather.
It is.
Yeah.
It was probably a better representation of normal. Honestly, It wasn't just gorgeous, but on the bright side, I didn't get burned horribly bad, so that was plus.
And the beer still tastes good.
Yeah, and beer still tastes good.
Yeah,
beer does taste good, or you wouldn't drink it.
This whole offset bar thing, I think, is interesting. Yeah. I just finished shooting the.
One more thing that I want to definitely touch on. Angle compensating rangefinders.
Oh,
that's when you really see it.
Absolutely,
like drastically, because you've probably never shot that far at those angles.
Yeah,
and I cannot recommend the Bushnell broadhead enough. I know it's Bushnell, and I know Bushnell makes relatively economical product. Most people wouldn't consider it super quality, but I have gone to 3 or 4 of those tacks now, and every time I go to one, I have the most accurate rangefinder in the group for angles. Like we all go, what'd you shoot that for? What'd your rangefinder say to shoot that for? What'd your rangefinder say to shoot that for? Before we shoot it, and then everybody shoots it, and mine's right.
That's a good point.
And it's cheap. It's a $300 rangefinder, which isn't cheap, but I mean for what you're getting all the right angle compensation for archery. It changes from red to black on the reticle automatically, depending on what your light background is.
That's interesting.
And I just found out the other day that they made a binocular with that in it. I might have to carry that. It's a $700 binocular. It's a 1042. And once again, it's Bushnell, so it's not going to be like amazing glass. But if you're going to do a rangefinder anyway. That's the only one I've seen that actually has archery relatable angle compensation in it. Every range-finding binocular I've seen is built for a gun. It's not built for a bow, and they don't work the same way. The ballistic compensators in them are different. So I may actually have to give that thing a try, even though it'll pain me. Because I mean, I've had Leica and Swarovski and really high-end stuff for a long time, but the reality that a 10x42 binocular that's got the right rangefinder in it for archery hunting, if I'm not glassing a really long ways away, seems appealing. It just does, and it's hard to justify, not using a $2,000 or $3,000 pair of binos. But I mean, there's times where I would bow hunt and just take my rangefinder, not even take my binos. So if I had it in a rangefinder and it worked correctly, it might be worth it just to take that and not have the rangefinder. But we'll see. The one thing I will give the broadhead is it's really light. Like, it's physically light, and it's a little bigger than like a Leupold. And I find it's a lot easier to point it. Like, I had both. Like, I had a Leupold and I had the broadhead, and I played with both of them for like a year, and I stuck with the broadhead. Like, it was easier to get on a target. The reticle change being automatic was awesome. It worked really similar, but it seemed to be a little more accurate. And it was half the price.
Yeah, I like the rangefinders that aren't too big and bulky.
Yeah.
Because the bulky ones, like a Vortex is an example, they have made a bigger one in the past, and I think it's like just hard to get out of a pocket. And yeah, there's nothing more annoying than trying to range a deer or range something when it matters and you're shuffling to get your gear out.
Yeah, but what if it was just in your bino and you're just using
Right,
your binos?
I know, yeah. It saves you some extra stuff.
Yeah, it's one less thing.
Yeah, it's one less thing. I agree. A product like that's going to be a home run as soon as it...
I'm convinced.
As soon as it's a good mix of both, yeah, a lot of people are going to find the need for one, not two.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and order that. I don't know if my rep listens to this or not, but by the time you hear this, I will have already ordered some of them from you. I didn't even know they made it. He came in the shop this last week. And
that's new to me.
Oh, yeah, we put that in a bino. Like, what? It's like, I've probably sold 100 of their rangefinders. I think I'd have heard about it, but either way.
Yeah, that's new
cool
to
stuff.
me. Yeah, I was talking about that offset bar, and...
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. That darn Consequence right now is super balanced with where it sits. I added a little extra weight to it. Are the weights on the hunting bows, are those 1 ounce weights?
Yeah. Well, I do a 1 and a 3 on the hunting stabs.
There was a three banger, and I added 2 more of those. So I think there's 9 ounces offset to the left of it, and it feels like a balanced bow that has a front bar and a back bar.
Hey, that's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's just a thing a lot of people are sleeping on because it not a lot of people are doing it yet. Hasn't been seen, and I think from a hunting bow standpoint, you can get it right there, man. I think you can get it right there. And today I shot them all side by side, and 2 out of the 3 bows had front bar, back bar, and one of them had the offset bar, and the scores are all pretty similar. I mean, it's not all apples to apples, and I'm a human.
Well, I was going to say, does this just mean you're not very good at it?
Yeah, that could be that too, yeah.
No, it's amazing how well a good mid-level hunting setup can really perform.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and yeah, I'm in the middle of figuring out which bow I want to bring to tack, and it could end up being it's between the Bowtech Core SS, the Dart and Consequence, and the Bear Alaskan XT, which it sounds fun to have that many bows, and it is, but trying to dial them all in simultaneously gets a little difficult. Because
kind of like building 4 or 5 bows to decide which one you
exactly,
want. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So
you didn't realize I was tricking you into doing a ton of work,
basically,
did you?
Yeah. Basically,
hey, this would be a good idea. You should do this.
If you see one of those videos of Josh's where he's building a bow to test them all side by side, like, drop a thumbs up on that, because it's way more work than it seems to be. Because you got to really dial it in. And anyway, long story short, it's like a first world problem or whatever to have too many bows. But it's interesting because then you get a long form testing of them side by side.
That's the idea.
You get to spend time with them. And it's not practical for most people to do that. It's just irrational, frankly. But I'm learning some stuff. I'm learning a lot about the bow setups and the forgiveness of them. And yeah, there'll be a lot. I think it'll be a great contribution to like how much I've learned about bow setups because I've had to work through so many of them this year. Yeah. So
there you go.
It'll be interesting. But I mean, it's crazy to be a couple weeks away and say that I could potentially be going to tack with a sub 30-inch axle bow. That's not a flagship bow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird thing. Like the Vegas odds on that on January 1st would probably have been like 100 to 1. You know what I mean?
I think it'd be higher than that.
And right now it's probably
more like 1,000 to 1.
It's probably 1 to 1. So it's curious.
Well, and I think that was somewhat of the idea behind this. Try these mid-price bows and build them and give them a real fair shake.
Yeah, give them a real fair shake.
Is that you might find that they're just as consistent and accurate as what you are, or as your $1,200, $1,400 bow before you set it up, and you might actually like how one feels better than the other.
Yeah.
When you really get some time behind the wheel. In a perfect world, a guy would get the 4 or 5 bows that he was really interested in and build all 5 of them the same and make them as good as you can and shoot the piss out of them, and then take the one that you like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not really practical for most people, but
yeah, it's not practical.
But that's kind of the beauty of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, and it's just crazy. It's kind of crazy, really. But I don't know what the secret sauce is. Like I keep kind of chewing on it, and maybe it's just a bow that fits me well, or maybe it's the brace height, but there's something about how well that consequence points for being a short axle bow.
Right.
Yeah. It points really well. It holds really well. It feels relatively forgiving on shots that might feel a little more off. Yeah. Is that typically a brace height thing?
It could be a brace height thing. Could be a reflex geometry thing. Could be as simple as the draw lengths are all slightly different, and that's the one that fits you the best.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Could be the peep height happens to be just the most optimum for you, so you're not fighting that. It's amazing how much a human being will struggle fighting their draw length and their peep position and not realize they're doing it at all. Mm-hmm. Like if you put yourself into your peep and draw your bow back, anchor in, come on to target, and then start pulling, and not pay attention to your peep at all, and get like 4 or 5 seconds into it and then stop and look at your peep, you're not lined up anymore frequently. And that's a peep orientation issue where it's not in the right spot. It's amazing how many people will have their peep in the wrong spot for long periods of time and never have any idea. Or draw length fitting you right, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, it seems like
it's very difficult to get that exactly right. And then once somebody finds that, they'll have a tendency to embrace that this is what all bows must be for me, period, no matter what. Like this has to be within a 16th, because you find that happy point and the bow seems to stop moving.
And does that seem to carry forward with other bows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's relatively true. Like if a guy knows to a T exactly what his draw length is when he gets a new bow, he'll put it on a draw board, measure the draw length, and manipulate the strings and cables to get it to that length.
Yeah, because I've always heard those murmurs, those whispers of people who are really good at archery who like, yeah, I move my draw length a 16th of an inch or an eighth of an inch or a couple twists, and all of a sudden my pin was buried.
Yeah.
And you always wonder if those things are, is that actually happening?
If you're good enough to shoot that well, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've heard it enough to know now that there has to be some truth to that.
Oh, there is.
And yeah. Which is eventually why, if you're really good at shooting, you end up being really good at tuning.
That's right.
Because you change your draw length 1/4 of an inch, and then, in conjunction, other things change with that.
Well, that's why most of the really good archers I've had over the years, they get to a certain point, and I sit down and talk to them. It's like, I'm not working on your bow anymore. Mm-hmm. You need to do it. And you need to do it so you understand what's going on. Because you're only going to get to a certain point, and you're not going to get any better. Because you have to. Like, you can only be so good at this not understanding how your bow works. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to understand how your bow works. You have to be able to understand how to make changes to it that manipulate a different outcome to it. And you're never going to do that by handing it to somebody else over and over and over and over and over and over. Eventually, you won't be able to diagnose the changes or what's going wrong. right? You just won't be able to.
Yeah, and that's like in reference, Joel last week when he was talking about Bodie, he's like, yeah, Bodie could shoot a 30X and be like, that was good, but this thing's not ready to win Vegas or whatever.
This bow won't win Vegas.
Yeah, because there are other things that he's looking for in his setup that makes it more forgiving or point better under pressure. I don't know. But yeah, that stuff seems to be very, very important kind of as a person progresses with archery. So
for sure. You get to a certain point and you better be working on your own stuff. You just have to understand it. And it's not complicated.
Yeah.
People really get intimidated by this, and it's not hard.
Yeah.
There's some tweaky things out there that make it like a little difficult, but in general, it's a very simple process to understand. And worst case scenario, you screw it up and you take it to your shop and ask them to fix it and pay them to fix it. But in general, there's, enough self-help out there now and more every day that you should be able to do it and get yourself through it by yourself.
Are you still seeing a lot of presses go out the door?
Oh yeah.
Is that still pretty common?
Yeah, I think we're probably selling more than last year, I think, which is kind of shocking.
Is the Easy Green still the most popular?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hands down. It's just for what you're paying, for $420 or whatever, you can press almost any bow. And if you can't press a particular bow with it, they make a part you can buy to add on to it to press it. There isn't a bow you can't press with it with the right fingers. And it just flat works. I mean, it's hard to argue with. Now, there's other bow presses out there. Most of them are quite a bit more expensive. It's just really hard to beat that press. I think we probably sell 2 or 3 a day, every day, pretty much, somewhere around there. And we don't make any money on them. It's a tool that you have to work on your bow. So I feel obligated to carry it. Like there's instances,
and shipping's a pain in the ass on those, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the way our website's set up is once you get over $100 or $99, shipping's free. That press is expensive to ship.
There's a big difference.
I have to have it shipped to me.
Yeah.
Right. So on top of the cost of the press, I'm paying. They're palletized, and I get 3 pallets every other week from them, and that's. I think I'm paying about $15 to $18 a press, depending on because it fluctuates throughout the year. $15 to $18 to get it to me, and I'm paying at least $20 to $25 to ship it back out to somebody else. So I have roughly $50 in freight on top of the cost of something that doesn't already have a good margin. It's a poor margin item. So there's absolutely instances where somebody buys that press and I lose money. By the time I pay for everything that's involved, I actually lose money on it. In general, I make money on it, but not a lot. In general, it's not very much. But it is the best tool for the money,
right?
Hands down. So I sell it, and I sell a lot of them. You could buy the original press from them, which is like $600 and something bucks, and it's a great press. Or the pack and goes, or $550 or $525 or something like that, and it's more compact. You can fold it down and take it with you. It's a lot easier in that scenario. And those ones have a little bit more meat on the bone, but in general, the green is the one that sells. And like I said, it's 2 or 3 a day every day. We might sell a pack and go once a week, twice a week, somewhere around there. Probably 2 a week.
If you're going bare bones, DIY archery shop, what's your first couple purchases? It's a press.
Have to have a press.
Yeah.
Have to have a vise. Have to have a drawboard. I have to. And not to pimp my own product, but a drawboard that works correctly will save you so much grief. And the last chance one doesn't work correctly. I know Baker made a new one. I haven't seen it yet that actually repositioned the handle, right? And still uses the last chance press to put it in. But I can't emphasize enough my drawboard. It's not cheap. It's $350, where I think a last chance is like $230. But my drawboard does a lot more than just check your timing. It will actually measure your physical draw length. It can set your third axis. You can lock your bow back at full draw and rotate it. I mean, it does a lot of stuff.
And I've done 3 or 4 third accesses now with that, and I haven't had to futz with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you found?
Oh, yeah. The only time I ever find where it doesn't work is when somebody's got a lot of hand torque.
I was going to want
torque, so
yeah.
if you grab a guy that's got a single bar with a bunch of weight on it, he's putting a bunch of bias in his grip, it's making it turn. And you'll find that to be different. But if you don't, if it's like a standard hunting setup or like a standard balance type of setup and you put it in there and put a level on it, it will absolutely be within a freaking smidgen of perfect. And you don't have to shoot it. I mean, you can go check it, but it's the best way I've ever found to do a third axis. And I just kind of stumbled upon it over time. Dicking with it. And I know Brian, like he's the one who won Reading a couple years ago in amateur. And he'd literally spend like a month going out and shooting target 4 and 3 or 4 and 5 and just do a loop. Like there's a trail where there's not supposed to be a trail because Brian will sit there and shoot uphill and downhill and uphill and downhill and uphill and downhill and uphill and downhill nonstop. And I asked him one day, I was like, is it perfect? He's like, it is dialed. I said, can I borrow your bow for a minute? And stuck it in my measuring tool and it was perfectly level. I'm like, sweet. Because that was my convincing point that someone that I knew shot really, 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 really well and spent a lot of time checking his third axis. Like he spent more time shooting third axis than he would on flat ground, on sighting his bow in. Like that was what gets you in those tournaments, is being able to shoot uphills and downhills accurately. And my tool measured it exactly as his bubble was set. When I leveled the bow out and rotated it, went, oh, hey, what do you know? That bubble's in the middle. Cool.
Yeah, Brian's capable of shooting really well. He was shooting a couple arrows down there before we came up, and like, he's shooting really well. Hopefully, he can bring his best game to Reading because he could turn some heads for sure.
Well, he's another person that had bought a Supra, a Super X this year, and started asking me questions about a title like 2 months later.
Yeah.
Like, well, you want to try one? I got freaking 15 of these ones. Do you want to try one? If you don't like it, just give it back. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Right. And he's had it for a week and a half.
Yeah.
And he was down here Sunday when I got back from the property. And I went down and talked to him for like an hour. And I was like, so what's the verdict? He's like, oh yeah, it's different. He's like, yes, there's something to this bow. Yeah. And every person that I know that's bought one has said the same thing. Like it's like a cheat code or something.
And he shot his Super X.
He did
really well. He did. I know he had some really high score practice rounds. I know he probably didn't shoot his indoor scores that he would have wanted to at some of the bigger stuff, but he definitely had some really high score practice rounds. So,
well, and the only thing that I can ascertain when looking at that versus other bows and why I get that feedback so much, it's how wide it is. It has to be, because it's legitimately wider than anything that's ever been made, and that bow reacts legitimately different than anything that's ever been made.
It's got dumps like a truck, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. And I keep hearing people say forgiving, which basically means when you make a less than perfect shot, it still ends up closer to the center than,
And what happens in a less than perfect shot most of the time?
I mean, hand torque. That would be my guess.
A wide limb set will make your hand torque react less.
Yeah.
It's harder to push it left to right because the wider you make it, the harder it is to push. Back when limbs were like this thin, you could torque the crap out of a bow. And it would literally manipulate back and forth really easy. And as these things have gotten wider and wider and wider, they've gotten more and more stable. That's a big part of it.
And you see that with trad bows, right? You see those things kick out different directions because they're so light. There's no weight on them.
I keep waiting for somebody to make like a 6-inch wide limb set on something because I really think that's what it is. And they wouldn't keep making those things wider if it didn't help stability. Because it makes it more complicated to build, right? There's more pressure and torque on the internal componentry by widening those things out. And it's more expensive to ship because it's got to be in a wider box. Like everything about doing that is negative to manufacturing, right? Production, right? So why would they do it if it didn't make it more stable?
And it doesn't have a ton of brace height, right? Do you know the brace height?
I don't remember. It's not bad. It's almost zero reflex. In the bow, if I remember right, but I think it's sub 7. It depends on which bow. Like the 36 is shorter than the 38, and Brian's shooting a 36, but we've sold way more 38s. I think we've gotten like 8 in the last 2 days, which is great because we didn't get like any for 2 weeks. We were short and out and not able to fill orders for people. And that's a pretty popular bow, surprisingly. I mean, we just sold one in the store like 2 days ago. And so when I ventured down this, we're going to sell target bows online if they let us, and I'm going to carry everybody's target bow. When I did that, my goal, obviously you're going to move some bows online because nobody has them, right? My goal was that anybody in the Pacific Northwest would come and buy a target bow from me because they could actually try them. Because nobody stocks them. Nobody carries them in their building, right? And that was the whole point. So if I could move, 20, 30, 40 of these things a year online, it would allow inventory to be sitting in the building.
Sure, of course.
When a customer would want to come in and try one. And we have sold, I don't even know the number, but we've sold like at least 5 or 6 titles in person. And most of them came a good distance to do it. So it's kind of working.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I see.
But I ate it in the shorts on something last year.
bet.
Man. I didn't have everything in yet, and the word hadn't really gotten around, I don't think, so much yet.
Well, it's such a nuanced thing, too, right? Like, target archery is not a huge group of people. And then it's one of those things where if you just have a few of the things, it's like not that appealing because, I mean, that kind of person, they're like, oh, I want to try this. I want to try that. They're like needy or whatever because they know what they want.
They're more particular.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got more time behind the wheel. They're more particular. They're looking for a thing. So it doesn't really behoove a person to have just a small sampling of it. Like, it's kind of an all or none kind of deal. So it's kind of an interesting segment of the business that'll be curious to see how much growth there is.
Well, now that we've been doing it for a year and a half, there's not a bow company I can't sell their target bows online now.
Yeah.
Like all of them will let me. The last one was Elite, and they just granted me the ability to do it. So yeah, it's been. I don't think there's one I can't. So it allows that full circle opportunity of whatever you want to try. I have it, and you can play with it.
Yeah, and most of those people are capable of doing their own bow builds anyway.
More often than not, the target guy is probably doing it himself.
And if you're a small shop, how in the heck are you going to be like, oh yeah, I want to carry $50,000 worth of target bows so I can, serve our 5 target shooters in the area?
Way more than $50,000.
No, yeah, I know that's what I'm saying. I'm just throwing out numbers, but
yeah,
it's why would you want to do that to sell a couple target bows a year? It's just it doesn't make any. It's no rational sense.
That was always the issue. It just was, you couldn't justify the dollars into it. And before I could sell them online, I wouldn't carry them. And I'd even sell a decent amount of them because we were a big shop.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do this because, I mean, you make this thing in freaking 12 colors.
Yeah.
2 different limb colors, 5 different poundages.
Yeah.
Cams that aren't adjustable in length. How in the hell do I stock that?
Yeah. All the different mods and let-offs.
Yeah, fortunately, the Matthews has made it so easy. Because it's all in the module, and I can sell the modules anyway. So I carry all the modules anyhow. So all I got to do is bring in one bow, and I can fit anybody as long as they're the right-handed person of this right-handed bow, or left-handed if it's left-handed bow. But because it's so easy, we actually try to carry every option. We carry every color of riser. We carry white and black limbs. We carry 36s and 38s. We carry left-handed bows. I've got 10 left-handed titles. 10! That's insane.
That is insane.
That is insane. A left-handed person can buy a target bow the day they want it.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. That one's actually scaring the piss out of me, for the record, because that is a lot of left-handed bows sitting there, and I think we've sold 2.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and they've been out since September-ish.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think we got one till like November to actually sell, or late October. But we have left-handed titles in stock. I have left-handed Reckonings in stock. I have left-handed Super X's in stock. My God.
Have you gotten your hands on a Spot Hog Boonie yet?
I did a video on one that hasn't been edited and released yet.
It's probably been released by the time this comes out.
Maybe, probably. I don't know. I've got like 6 videos in there that I haven't even edited yet because I'm like, I don't have any time. Stupid working on mom's house stuff. But yeah, it's.
I think it's going to be good though, right?
I think it's going to crush. I think they've got one giant issue that's not going to go away, and it's their inability to ship the product because they've already sold more than they could make this year.
And this is going to have an adjustable rail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually got the right adjustments. It's almost, I shouldn't say everything. It's almost everything I've been asking them for 20 years since they started making a movable site. They've covered every basis. The only thing it won't do is have a zero stop 20 that the head adjusts independently of the rail. They have a clamp that you can put on it and stop it from moving. So you can adjust it to 20, put the clamp on it, but you're giving up some of the throw of the sight when you do that. So that's the only reason I don't prefer it that way. I like to be able to move the sight to the maximum height of its adjustment and then move the scope head to where 20 yards is. So when I move it till it stops, it's at 20 yards and I don't have to look at it. And then I know I'm shooting as far down as I possibly can until I run into an arrow and I'm not losing any range by doing it that way. So that's one thing it doesn't do. They didn't redesign any of their heads, but they have some good head options already, right? But it's
an easy one to adapt to if you want to, right?
Yeah, it has all the leveling rail adjustment options that you would want it to have. The wheels are interchangeable, so you can have multiple sight tapes. It's got the lock is on the wheel, so you're moving it here and then you turn it and lock it in place. Super simple. And all the bases are interchangeable, so you can put a direct mount
Like
base
Picatinny
on.
base.
Yep.
Yeah.
Direct mount base, bridge lock, Picatinny, you name it. And the dovetail is the same shape as the previous one, so it doesn't quite fit the bridge lock, right? But it does go in. And they have integrated movement left to right and more windage movement than I had before and more defined clicks. So it's like everything you griped about got addressed, period. It's a great sight. I think it'll be 90% of their site market next year. This year is probably not going to quite pull that off because they're not even going to have a decent amount of product in the flow till July or June. They're supposed to start shipping in April, but only small quantities to everybody who put it in order will get some, right? And this is the thing that drives me nuts about Spot Hog, and I hope you're listening. Why do you keep launching product you can't ship? You came out with the triple stack, right? And it was the same thing. Now, I don't know if that was Cameron Haynes' fault because he made a video that showed it before it was supposed to be out in Wayne's shop 2 years ago or 3 years ago when that came out. And it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then they struggled to try to fulfill orders, right? But they launched the product, didn't have product to ship, and could only make X in the first year, right? That just drives me crazy. It's there's going to be a demand for this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess I can't gripe because I can't ship my draw boards fast enough. So I get it, but
this is
an established company.
This is
that's
more
been
new
around
to
20
you,
something
right?
years.
Yeah.
This is more of a new thing to me,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I'm not really retailing anything. I might, but not yet. So it's still more me just selling to the public and not massive chains across the country and that sort of thing on the scale that they're doing. And I believe they said their capacity was 6,000 to 8,000 sites in the first year, and they've already sold that many. And they're not even really going to be shipping anything until 4 months after they released it. Why do that? That's just bonkers. Don't release the site until you have a decent amount of it to ship. Or have resources to expand.
And you have some business history, right? So you could, yeah. I mean,
it just, and the biggest thing of it is you're shortening the window for somebody else to knock off whatever you did. Now, in all fairness, most of the improvements they made to their site weren't really unique to Spot Hog. They were things that other sites did that they incorporated into theirs. So the worry about somebody knocking off something they did, not so likely. Triple stack? Absolutely. Not having that to ship, it shipped terrible for the first year and a half. You just gave, the next year, Black Gold came out with a dual track.
right.
Which is 2 pins independently adjustable vertical, right? And the year after that, I want to say CBE came out with their site. You shorten the window of time to, kind of copy this. Or what? I don't even think it was 2 years. I think it was a year and a half or something like that. So you've given the people that compete with you the opportunity to take some of your market share sooner by not being able to fulfill orders. So I wish they would address that. And it's the same thing with them. Every time they come out with something new, they can't ship it. Sorry. I guess the my desire for their company to grow bigger because they're good people, and it's American made, and everything they build to not fail. Like that's like
Yeah.
a keystone in their company. It's like anybody who owns a Spot Hog site knows it's reliable.
They're bomb proof.
They're bomb proof.
Yeah.
They 100% are. And I'd love to see that company be bigger. And I feel like the fact that they can't seem to ship product when they come out with a good improvement has a lot to do with that. So I don't know. Armchair quarterback in or hindsight or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not running your company.
It's way easier to be on the sidelines, but
it is. But seeing the same problem over and over is like, come on, guys, like be prepared for this next time at least, because I mean, how many sites would they have sold? Like if they could have sold and shipped 20,000 triple stacks the first year, they would have easily. And a new customer is only going to be a new customer for so long before they give up and buy something else. Because that guy still needs to buy a site. He does, or she does. Whoever it is, there's a window that you're going to get to sell them something. They're not going to wait a year and a half to get your site that you released for their shop to actually have one sitting on the wall to get in. You know, they might not wait 3 months, 2 months. Heck, we've been taking pre-orders for them, and I've already had 4 people cancel and just take a different site because they didn't want to wait anymore. And it's only been a couple of months with the pre-order date saying like June. Like it said it right out of the gate. Hey, you're not getting your site till June at best. Right? So I don't know. It just, oh God, it flabbergasts me. Like, but I guess that's part of the deal with them. But I want the best for that company because they're good people, and in an industry and products that are becoming more and more and more imported, like the sites, accessories, small incremental things like that. More and more and more of them are becoming imported, and they're not imported. They're making them in Oregon, like they're made local, right? And they're one of the best reviewed products frequently. Right? But they can't fulfill when they come out with something new. It just kills me for them. I've known Josh over there for 20 something years. I mean, he's a good dude. Next time you release something cool, have like 6,000 of them ready to go when you release it. Like just hold off a half a year. Right? I really think they shoot themselves in the foot with their actual ability to have popularity. But I mean, Excel did the same thing. You know, when they came out with the landslide, 6-month lead times, 8-month lead times, 9-month lead times. It's like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
And eventually, I personally just like, well, I know these will sell, so I'm going to get in the game. So I just started ordering an order every 2 weeks for 2 years. I put $1 million worth of orders in their system, and they had to call me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, your product sells. You know it. I know it. Lancaster knows it. That's why they do this.
Yeah.
Right? I'll take $1 million worth of them over the next year. Fine. I don't care. And if you're going to make it difficult to order, I'll order them on individual orders. I don't care. I need the product. I have a demand, and I have to fulfill that demand. And if this is how I have to order your product to get it, then so be it. I'll do it. But you know, I'm reordering Spot Hog multiple times, like deep, like big numbers, because that's the only way you're going to be able to fulfill that need through your portal. And you know, anybody who's running a lot of volume like that has to do it that way, or you're not going to get it. You're going to get some. It's going to be all gone, and then you're going to get none for 4 months or 5 months, and then you're out again. So you have to just sit there and blanket order and order and order and order and order.
Moral of the story, what I'm hearing is don't wait until August or September or October to set up your bow, because a lot of times your options are going to be limited.
This is very true.
Like, get on it, and you might need to plan a little ways out if you want a certain item that may not be around. Because, you know, in archery, they're still learning to keep up with that demand. Archery's cool. Like, people want your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes
For sure.
one of these companies is going to whip their nuts out on the table, and they're going to end up being really big because they're going to be willing to invest in getting the products sooner,
Whipping
faster.
their nuts out.
Yeah, they're gonna whip them out. They're gonna be big.
I've heard it different. That's not normally the phrase I hear. It's usually something else that you're whipping out, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
And,
somebody actually just swings for the fence. But I get it. It's scary,
Yeah.
right? I understand that. But
And when you have a good business,
fairness,
it's scary to reinvest.
in all fairness, and I think it's probably okay to talk about this now because it's gonna be out. I just ordered. I'm making a new 166 titanium component system, and I just ordered 10,000 pieces. That's like $100,000.
You whipped your nuts out.
I did because I know what to sell. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah,
So at a certain point, as you evolve, you just have to accept the risk.
you do.
And if you feel confident in what you've made, then just do it and don't be afraid. Because you're gonna lose that ability to capitalize on what you've made because it'll wear off. The new product thing wears off. It always does.
It always does. Yeah.
It always does. It really truly does.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the pod. That's the pod.
That's the pod.
When in doubt, whip them out. You know what
When
I'm
in
saying?
doubt, whip it out. You threw a big dick on that room, Dad. That was the funniest one from Kreischer, whatever that was. Razzle Dazzle.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Plan your archery stuff early. Get going on it now. There's no time like the present. And if you want to save a few bucks at Josh's website, use my discount code. It's Tim C. Help support what we do. And Josh likes selling archery stuff.
One or two things here or there doesn't hurt my feelings.
And if you do have a local archery shop, go to them.
Yeah, I like to emphasize, and I don't
Yeah.
do this enough, and I really want
Yeah,
to.
no, me too.
Like, I only want you to buy something from me if you're going to order it anyway.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to buy it from your local pro shop, please do.
Yep.
You need him to survive. You need him to be around, or her.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're going to get online and order it anyway, that's when I want your business.
Yeah.
Before that, please go buy it from the pro shop.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For shizzle dizzle. We'll get you guys back for the next one.
For shizzle dizzle? I haven't heard that.